From impeachments, inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill. We know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to another episode of Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, live with you in Washington, D.C. Lots of stories to unpack over the next few minutes, including updates on the latest ceasefire talks between Hamas and Israel and the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. But first, here's a look at the latest headlines. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol offers to open a dialogue with North Korea and calls for the unification of the two Koreas. Columbia University President Manoush Shafik resigns after facing months of criticism from both pro-Palestine and pro-Israel groups. Shafik becomes the third president of a major American university to step down over the Gaza protest. A hacking group known as US DoD claims responsibility for stealing nearly 3 billion Social Security records of American, Canadian, and British citizens. Reports say the cybercrime syndicate tried to sell the data for $3.5 million, but has now posted the information online for free. India celebrates 78 years of independence from British colonial rule. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses the nation and calls it India's golden era. And climate activists breach security at 4 German airports and glue themselves to the tarmac. Airport operators temporarily suspend flights at Nuremberg and Cologne airports, affecting thousands of travelers. We start in the Middle East, where Qatar is hosting ceasefire talks in an attempt to end the war between Israel and Hamas that has now been raging for 10 months. The two-day-long talks in Doha are being mediated by the United States, Egypt, and as well as Qatar. Israel has sent a high-level team of negotiators reportedly handpicked by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Meanwhile, representing Washington is CIA Director William Burns, who's played an active role as mediator since the first round of talks were held in May this year. The White House said it remains confident that this time the talks would gain momentum and move closer to a ceasefire.
The United States is going to be there tomorrow, and we are ready. We are ready to continue these discussions. And as I've said before, and as my colleagues from NSC have said many times before, we are working 24/7 around the clock to get this done, to get this deal done.
Meanwhile, Israel is proposing an updated framework to the ceasefire deal first proposed by President Joe Biden back in May, saying it will adhere to a ceasefire and troop withdrawal as long as Hamas promises to release 33 hostages who are still alive. Israel says it has intelligence that over 110 hostages are still being held hostage by Hamas, with at least 40 of them being believed to be dead. Now Hamas has called the new Israeli demands a potential deal breaker and have committed to adhering to President Biden's ceasefire proposal, which would allow Hamas to release 33 hostages regardless of whether they are dead or alive. Hamas has accused Israel of moving away from the original terms and conditions and has threatened to walk out of the talks. Several senior Hamas leaders said that the Palestinian group would make a decision on accepting a ceasefire after being briefed by mediators on whether Israel would accept President Biden's original plan. Now, to overcome this diplomatic hurdle, the United States reached out to Qatar and Egypt and managed to convince Hamas against boycotting the talks.
How can they move forward and make progress if Hamas is not there?
So, as I said yesterday, our Qatari partners have assured us that there will be representation from Hamas, and I will let them, of course, speak to that, but I'm not going to get into more specifics beyond that.
Senior officials in the Biden administration said that achieving a ceasefire in Gaza remains vital to preventing Iran from launching an attack on Israel and escalating the war. U.S. intel reports say that Iran is fully prepared to avenge the killing of Hamas political chief Ismail Haniyeh, who was assassinated in Tehran on July 31st. And now all eyes are on Israel and Hamas as they negotiate a ceasefire agreement and try to prevent a wider war, even as Netanyahu and Tehran prepare their militaries for potential attacks in what would undoubtedly be a catastrophe in the Middle East. And moving to the war in Europe, Russia's Belgorod region has declared a state of emergency due to intensified attacks by Ukrainian forces. The region's governor said the situation was extremely difficult due to daily cross-border shellings. Belgorod is south of Kursk, where Ukraine launched cross-border attacks last week, forcing widespread evacuations of over 100,000 civilians. The governor has sought a federal-level emergency declaration approved by Vladimir Putin, similar to Kursk.
The situation in our Belgorod region continues to remain extremely difficult and tense. There are daily shellings by the Ukrainian armed forces, destroyed homes, injured and killed peaceful civilians. Therefore, we have decided to declare a regional-level state of emergency across the entire Belgorod region starting today to provide additional protection for the population and to offer extra support to those affected, with a subsequent appeal to the Government Commission to request a declaration of a federal-level state of emergency.
Now, Russia says it shot down at least 117 Ukrainian drones overnight. But despite Moscow's efforts to repel the attacks, Kyiv's forces continue to push forward, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announcing an advance of 1 to 2 miles deeper into the Kursk region.
There's good progress today in the Kursk region. We are achieving our strategic goal. We have also significantly replenished the exchange fund for our state.
Now, the exact extent of Ukraine's territorial control inside Kursk remains uncertain. However, Kyiv says that it has captured over 70 Russian villages. The Ukrainian commander-in-chief also confirmed the capture of at least 100 Russian soldiers.
Our Ukrainian drones work exactly as they should, but there are things that can't be done with drones alone. Unfortunately, we need other weapons, missile weapons.
We finished the search and elimination of the enemies on the territory of Sudza. From the beginning of today, we captured more than 100 of enemy's military servicemen.
Now, Ukraine maintains that it does not seek to annex Russian territory, stressing that attacks will stop if Russia agrees to a peace settlement. Meanwhile, Putin has accused President Zelensky of rejecting peace efforts. In response, President Zelensky has reiterated that talks will only happen if Russian forces withdraw from all Ukrainian territories, including Crimea.
With their terrorist actions in Kursk area, Ukraine has, at minimum, put the peace talks track on pause for a long time. In my opinion, they did this intentionally. Peace talks with an absolutely inadequate enemy is unnatural.
President Joe Biden has acknowledged the Ukrainian incursion into Russia and has called it a real dilemma for Putin. The president added that U.S. officials were in constant contact with Kyiv, although the White House has maintained that it did not receive advance notice about the Ukrainian operation. Additionally, Finland and Estonia have voiced their support for Ukraine's actions, while Germany emphasized Ukraine's right to self-defense even beyond its borders. And now in the race for the White House, Donald Trump's vice presidential pick J.D. Vance has run into controversy once again. A photo has gone viral on social media that purportedly shows him dressed as a drag queen. Reports say Vance was pictured donning a blonde wig and a skirt in 2011 when he was a student at Yale Law School. Meanwhile, LGBTQ+ activists have called him a hypocrite as he publicly pushes harmful rhetoric against their community. Here's our full report with more.
Since the day Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance as his running mate, the Ohio senator has been at the center of numerous controversies. whether it's calling childless cat ladies miserable, allegedly funding animal cruelty, or misrepresenting the Appalachian community in his memoir. One would think that Vance has done it all. But wait, there's more. Some photos have gone viral on social media platform X that purportedly show him dressed as a drag queen. In the images, Vance is donning a blonde wig and a skirt while playing beer pong with his friends. Media reports say the photographs were originally posted on Facebook in 2011 by one of his former classmates. Vance attended Yale University from 2010 to 2013 before receiving a Juris Doctorate from the Ivy League school. When it comes to the authenticity of these images, reports say both the Ohio senator and his wife Usha Vance are mentioned in the original post. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Vance has not denied the viral photo's legitimacy. So why are pictures of Vance cross-dressing such a big deal? Because the Republican vice presidential nominee is out and open against LGBTQ+ rights. Though this was not the case before 2021. 3 years ago, he was a supporter of LGBTQ+ causes. In law school, he reportedly advocated against Don't Ask, Don't Tell, a former policy in the United States that allowed gay and lesbian citizens to serve in the military as long as they did not make their sexual preferences public.
For 3.5 years, he's as sharp as he's ever been. He's sharp as a tack.
However, Vance's support on LGBTQ+ issues flipped when he met Donald Trump and ran for Senate in 2022. For the 40-year-old, there was no eureka moment that changed his views on Trump. Vance says he gradually realized that the man whom he once called Hitler actually had opinions that he agreed with. Now the Ohio senator has become a vocal critic of gender-affirming care for minors. He also once opposed federal protections for same-sex and interracial marriages. Vance believes there are only two genders and refers to trans issues as a crazy gender theory. And now, with his latest viral photo dressed as a drag performer, Vance has once again sparked outrage among the LGBTQ+ population in the United States, who already criticize him for perpetuating harmful rhetoric against their community, and they're now calling him a hypocrite.
And staying in the United States, Disney World is seeking to dismiss a lawsuit brought by a husband over the death of his wife with a bizarre argument. This February, Jeffrey Piccolo filed a $50,000 wrongful death lawsuit against Disney on behalf of his late wife. Piccolo claims he and his wife went to a Walt Disney World resort in Florida last year and dined at a restaurant inside the theme park. His wife had a severe allergy to dairy and nuts, and they asked the waiters numerous times about allergen-free food. The restaurant allegedly assured them that their order would be allergen-free. However, shortly after eating the food, Piccolo's wife suffered an allergic reaction and died the same day on October 5th. A medical examiner confirmed that the death took place due to elevated levels of dairy and nuts in her system. Now Disney has responded to the allegations in a Florida court and has argued that the case ought to be settled out of court. Because Piccolo years ago agreed to the company's terms stating that users must agree to settle any disputes with the company out of court via arbitration. Piccolo allegedly agreed to the condition when he signed up for a 1-month free trial of Disney Plus in 2019, and again in 2023 when he purchased the theme park tickets online using his Disney account. Attorneys for Disney say that when a person creates a Disney Plus account, they also agree to the Walt Disney Company's terms of use. That includes its affiliates like Disney Parks and Resorts. Now, lawyers for Piccolo have called Disney's arguments preposterous and inane. They say Disney is presenting a notion that if a person signs up even for a free trial of Disney Plus, they will have forever waived the right to a jury trial. Piccolo's lawyers further claim that the plaintiff is now suing Disney on behalf of his deceased wife, who never agreed to the terms. And now it remains to be seen if Piccolo will get justice for his wife's wrongful death or lose to Disney's bizarre claims when the matter is heard in court this October. And finally, from San Francisco, self-driving cars that are supposed to be a step towards the future are giving people sleepless nights in a once peaceful neighborhood. These autonomous vehicles from Waymo have been honking incessantly while parked, specifically between midnight and 4 in the morning. What started as a high-tech convenience has quickly turned into a nightmare, leaving residents frustrated with the tech malfunction. Here's our final report with more.
In a quiet neighborhood of San Francisco, where the hum of the city usually faded into the night, something unusual began happening. The parking lot, once filled with city crowds during local events, had taken on a new kind of occupant, Waymo's robo-taxis. Sleek and silent during the day, they seemed like the perfect addition to the neighborhood. These vehicles, designed to navigate the streets without human intervention, were a glimpse into the future. But as the night fell, the once silent lot began to stir with an unexpected noise: car horns. A resident who lives in a nearby building said, "We started out with a couple of honks here and there, and then as more and more cars started to arrive, the situation got worse." At first, the honking seemed almost comical. The idea of cars devoid of drivers communicating in such a way brought a smile to those who noticed. But as the nights wore on, the honking continued, and often at the most inconvenient hours. Residents who documented the persistent honking more than a dozen times said, "It's very distracting during the workday, but most importantly, it wakes you up at 4 in the morning." The honking wasn't just a brief interruption, it became a regular part of the neighborhood's soundscape. Residents who had been excited to see the cutting-edge technology in their midst found themselves lying awake, live streaming and wondering when the noise would finally stop. Attempts to reach out to the company behind the robo-taxis were met with promises of a solution. Randall White, a resident in the area, said, "I think the most frustrating thing about this is that there is just nobody to talk to, and even at the corporate level, I'm finding it difficult." Then, after multiple queries, a Waymo spokesperson said the cause had been identified and a fix was on the way. Yet the residents complained that the honking persisted. One of those residents, who has lived in the building for oddly 2 decades, said he had never been woken up in the middle of the night as often as he had been in the last 2 weeks. But despite the frustration, there was a strange irony to it all. The robo-taxis, designed to be safer and more reliable than human drivers, had become a literal nightmare. The same technology that promised to make the streets quieter and safer during the day was now responsible for sleepless nights.
That's all we have time for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story,